Please explain if there are any current methods to bypassing the screen lock time for an app or a certain category of apps on iOS, either using shortcuts or Siri or both. And please make the explanations and list exhaustive.
Alright, let's dive into bypassing those iOS screen time app limits with shortcuts and Siri. For shortcuts, you can create ones that open websites or perform actions within apps, potentially bypassing the limits. Siri can sometimes be used to send messages or access features within apps that are restricted. However, Apple often patches these loopholes in updates, so these methods might not always work.
Continue with the other possibilities, please.
Okay, continuing with other possibilities, some users have reported that changing the device's region, or date/time settings, can sometimes reset screen time limits. Also, deleting and reinstalling an app can occasionally bypass restrictions temporarily. These methods might not work consistently, as Apple often releases updates to address these workarounds.
Wouldn't the iPhone just assume that you have changed time zones by either changing locations or some other way and adjust the time limit accordingly?
That's a good point. iPhones are pretty smart about location and time zones. If you change your location, the phone will likely adjust the time automatically.
So then in that case, the automatic adjustment to time will auto-adjust the usage for apps, and you still will be at the same amount of usage without the ability to use it, right?
Exactly. Your iPhone's automatic time adjustment would likely negate any attempt to bypass screen time by changing the time zone. The usage limits would remain in place.
So then is there a technically or theoretical way of changing the time without changing time zones?
Technically, you could try manually changing the time in your iPhone settings without changing the time zone. However, this might interfere with other time-sensitive functions on your device, like alarms or calendar events. Plus, it might not consistently...
But if I was to change the time, say, back 6 hours, I could gain 6 hours of usage on an app, theoretically.
Theoretically, yes. Changing your iPhone's time back 6 hours could give you an extra 6 hours of app usage before screen time kicks in. However, this might mess with other things on your phone, like alarms or calendar events. Plus, Apple often patches these kinds of workarounds in their updates.
So have they patched that workaround, or is that still open as far as you know?
It's tough to say for sure if Apple has completely patched that workaround. They do release updates to address these kinds of loopholes, but sometimes new ones pop up. It might be worth trying to see if it still works on your...
Excuse me, can't you find any pertinent information from users in Reddit groups to whether or not this function still exists?
I couldn't find any recent discussions on Reddit about bypassing screen time by changing the time. It seems like Apple is pretty good at patching those kinds of workarounds.
So then did you find evidence that they did patch it?
I couldn't find any specific evidence that Apple has patched the time change workaround for screen time.
So
it's possible that it's
still...
still... Yeah, it might be worth a shot to see if it works on your device. Just be aware that it could mess with other time-related functions.
Understandably so, but if it's temporary, that shouldn't be a necessary problem that has to be dealt with. Is there any way using shortcuts currently that can negate the screen time limitations?
You can create shortcuts to open websites that might be blocked by screen time. For example, if Safari is limited, a shortcut could open Chrome or Firefox and navigate to the desired site. There are also shortcuts that automate tasks within apps, potentially bypassing certain usage restrictions. However, these methods might not work consistently, as Apple often releases updates to address these workarounds.
So does Apple block apps according to their group, such as productivity or games or entertainment, or do they block individual apps, or does it both?
Apple's screen time lets you block both individual apps and entire categories, like games or social media, so you can customize it to fit your needs.
So theoretically, if somebody had blocked their access to the Instagram or Facebook app, they could log in using Firefox or Safari or Chrome, any other browser, to negate the time limit on the app itself. Is that right?
That's right. If Instagram or Facebook are blocked as apps, you can still access them through a web browser like Safari or Chrome. Screen time often treats web browsing separately from app usage.
How about TikTok? Let's say, because it's so popular and parents often restrict the usage that a child has to it, is there a way around by accessing their webpage?
Yes, accessing TikTok through its website on a browser like Safari or Chrome could bypass app-specific screen time limits. It's a common workaround for restricted apps.
Good to know there's still options to try, but not great to know that nobody really talks about it and not information is available. Thank you for your assistance.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could help. Just remember, technology is always changing, so there might be new workarounds or updates in the future.
Understood.
If you have any more questions,